I am a land use attorney with Herschel Fleischer, and I'm here to support Kenny Dodson and the owners of Logan's Crossing. I think Kenny's going to do some introductions here, and we'll go from there.
First of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm Kenny Dodson. I live here in Locust Grove. Went to Orange County High School, so I'm a product of Orange County system. My wife's born and raised at the other end of the county up in Marks Corner, so we're lifelong residents here in Orange. We're very involved in the county. We own the Locust Grove Town Center where the Exxon is, and Mama's Pizza, and Guacamole Restaurant. We helped do the intersection improvements out there at 601 and 20 when this middle school was built. We're in the excavation business also. We built the Locust Grove Post Office in 2001 for the new post office I call it now, that's been there for 20 years. So we've been heavily invested, involved in Orange County. Our children went to school here in Orange County, went to Locust Grove Middle School, Locust Grove Elementary School, and Locust Grove and Orange County High School. And actually, we foot was at Locust Grove Elementary, the primary school. It was built back in I think 1990. And so again, we've been here, and we're really just looking to take and make a future investment in our county. We've got a crown jewel here at this end of the county. The King family that have amassed this property for 50 years. They started buying it in the 60s, and a little bit more in the 70s, a little more in the 80s and 90s, and they're not developers. They were just land barons, bought it for a hunting reserve and hunted, and now it's kind of coming to fruition, and we want to see it used to its highest and best use. So I'm a partner and an applicant with the Logan's Crossing, and I want to introduce our team here. What we're going to do is Charlie is going to make an introduction and a presentation of the Logan's Crossing. After that, we'll do question and answers. After that, we'll break up. If people like to go, we'll have different people at these boards scattered back around to answer questions there one-on-one. And again, this is the beginning of the process. I think Charlie will lay that out, what the process is right now. This is our town hall meeting. We still got a work session with the Planning Commission, public hearing with the Planning Commission, public hearing with the Board of Supervisors. So this is just really the beginning. Again, I want to introduce Charlie Payne. He's our land use attorney. Zach Parker, he's our environmental engineer, scientist. We've got Keith Oster, he's our civil engineer, and Zach Letty is our land planner. And just let you know, Zach has been working with us. This just didn't come over the last couple of years. We've been working with us for about 10 years, getting input and trying to come around to come up with the plan we have today. Anyways, Charlie.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here. Like I said earlier, we've got lots of folks here. When we get to the Q&A section, please raise your hand if you've got a question, and we'll answer that. Let's try to get that through that as quickly as we can so that everybody can get to the various stations and meet some of our reps and talk about any questions you may have from that point. I'm sort of a newbie to this project. When I say that, I've been working on it for about 18 months now. And some of these guys, as Kenny had noted, have been working on it for close to 10 years. It's an exciting project. It's an exciting opportunity for Orange County. I'm very happy to be part of it. A very important part of it is each and every one of you here today. And your input and your comments are really part of that process. So what we're going to go through here in this PowerPoint is some background on the project, and then talk about the comprehensive plan, talk about the proposed zoning district that we're intending to use, and then talk about more details about the project. You'll hear from some of my other colleagues here tonight as well, especially Zach, in regards to land planning components. I think you'll find it very interesting. You'll see our overall master plan, and then we'll break it down for you by land day as to what's going to go in each one of those areas. I think you're going to be very excited to also see some unique economic development opportunities. We've got about over 732 acres that we'll set aside just for economic development and sort of employment centers, if you will. That doesn't count the town center, it doesn't count the retail that is along Route 3. So again, a very strong economic development component of this. You'll see when we get to the fiscal impact analysis, it's based on our initial filing of our application, which was a couple of months ago. Since our meeting, we need to update that sort of process of getting in. You'll see some numbers up here that are fairly current, but they don't include that economic development component, which is going to bump those numbers up even higher. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Logan Burnett is from my office who's handling the slides. So Logan, if you could go ahead and move to the first one. So what's important about this is I wanted to give you a quick overview and hit some key points. So assemblage. A project of this nature requires lots of acres. So it's over 2,600 acres. As Kenny had noted earlier, the King family has assembled this for close to 50 years. And you'll see as we go through this, that 2,600 acres represents about 80% of your Germanna Wilderness Area Plan, your GWAP plan, which is over 3,200 acres. The property is currently has a mix of various different zonings. It's currently got some agricultural zone, got some industrial, residential, and commercial. I think that when we looked at it, we determined that you probably would develop about 900 homes on it, right? But that's just showing how it's located, how it's done right now. The point of this rezoning is to sort of create this global development plan consistent with your planned development mixed use, which is really tied to the hip with your GWAP. It encourages a creative design, a mix of uses, and greater density, as you'll see. The property is situated, of course, along Route 3 West, to the north of Route 3 West, and is bordered by the Rappahannock River. It's in what's called your sub-area 4 zone of the Germanna Wilderness Area Plan. Go back. Thank you. She's a fairly good associate. She's trying to trick me a little bit there. And the project does include a menu of uses. It's going to have a town center component, which you'll see later, a mix of residential uses, single family, traditional single family, townhomes, multifamily, some units of retail, some assisted living, etc. It'll also have a strong commercial retail and office component, an industrial component, a cultural, institutional, and civic use component. It's approximately 45% of the project is open space. Your planned development mixed use zoning district requires only 20%, so this more than doubles what's under the ordinance. That'll be about 1,178 acres will be open space. Strong economic development focus, as we'll talk about 732 acres has been set aside just for employment center type uses. Again, it doesn't count the retail or the office that would be located along Route 3. And then we've got capital number of residential uses not to exceed anywhere from 4,200 to 6,500 uses. I know that both those numbers sound fairly big, and I know there's sort of this range. Why is there a range? We can talk a little bit about that as we move forward, especially when we talk about the economic development component. But that's about 1.6 to 2.5 units per acre. So it's not a very dense project for that purpose, but we will have cluster development for residential purposes, obviously, through this. But we'll also have some traditional state lots and larger lots towards the northern end of the project, as you'll see, and Zach will walk through. That represents about 13 to 20% of the allowable density under the planned development mixed use. If you just did a raw calculation, you're talking about 31,000 units on this type of acreage based on your zoning district. But we're not obviously doing that. We're doing a much smaller project. Next, please. Your GWAP plan, your Germanna Wilderness Area Plan, what is it? It was established in 2013. It's been long considered by the county as its primary development area along Route 3 corridor. This is where your growth is supposed to happen. Your vision statement is a place to live, work, and I underline that as well. You'll see a lot of the live, work, and play components in this project. With a higher standard of design and development, which is self-contained, complete community that's appealing to the current and prospective residents. It is a place clearly differentiated from other places. It will be a dynamic destination that results in economic engine for the entire area. A sense of place. The gross acreage of the GWAP again is over 3,200 acres, and this project represents about 80% of that amount. This is a future vision of 50 years under your GWAP plan. So it was established in 2013. We're almost 10 years into it. So during that period of time, assemblage of acreage has occurred, modeling and planning, and now we're expecting a 40-year build out of this project. So when you see, 4,200, 6,500 units and lots of industrial and lots of commercial investment, That doesn't happen overnight, right? That happens over a long period of time. So we want to make sure that's clear. Your GWAP plan also for housing encourages clustered residential uses along with extensive open space. Again, two key components to our project, and also a mixed density of housing. So it's just not single family, it's just not apartments, it's just not going to be towns. It's a mix of all those various different uses. And it will be tied into our commercial uses. Next, please. Again, continuing with your GWAP plan, just an overview. It has a strong commercial component. Again, blending innovative commercial development like retail and restaurants, goods and services, professional services as well, like a doctor's office, a doc in a box, a dental office, vision place, maybe even a small medical clinic or a larger medical clinic or a medical campus can all occur. Expanded retail goods and services along this corridor, and it does encourage a lot of that along Goodwood Drive, not too far from Lake Woods. It also encourages recreational-related uses activities located near the Rappahannock River. You're going to see we're going to have parks, dedicated parks. We're going to have ball fields that we're going to construct and dedicate to the county. You'll see lots of open space, lots of trails, lots of amenities. Corporate office campus. You're going to see in our economic development component of the site, which is to the further west, that we're encouraging economic development investment in that area. Again, well over 700 plus acres for that purpose. Hospitality-related uses like hotels, healthcare-related uses, medical office, and assisted living, and we did, obviously take a look at and incorporate your 2018 Buxton study regarding retail and recruitment strategy. You may know that one of the issues and challenges in Orange County today is sort of this retail leakage concept, meaning that folks are going elsewhere to spend money at retail shops and restaurants, etc. You'll see that in our analysis how this project is going to be able to keep those dollars in Orange County, which will be a very positive situation for the county. Public uses are also encouraged under your plan. Possibility of the future new reservoir to supplement the existing water supply in the area. New water and wastewater treatment facilities. We are working with RSA on that safety office located within the project. You'll see that we are going to be dedicating a public safety area for that purpose. Next, please. Again, just continuing with your plan, lots of open space and recreation amenities are encouraged. Zoning strategies are to use the PDM zoning district. Kind of tied it together. So it would be a mix of residential, commercial, light industrial, institutional, and some combination of all of these will be contained in this project. Economic development under your plan, variety of commercial development, industrial light flex uses, corporate campus, town center, job creation and business investment zone, which you'll see, and again, talking about that retail leakage. We're within 25 minutes of 77,000 customers who have an average home median income of over $105,000. We want those folks to come to us, not go somewhere else. And expand the local workforce. Much of your workforce works out of the area, and a small population works in Orange County. Boy, lots of elements to this plan. Infrastructure goals, really important. Transportation improvements. You'll see that this project will have various phases over 40 years. We are planning for the first two phases for improvements in transportation. We were just looking at what the numbers for that were just along Route 3 alone, well over $11 to $12 million. And then after that point, the second phase, we'd have to do a new transportation impact analysis for that point in time to determine what the impacts are. So this would be consistent with the growth of the project and we're mitigating those impacts. Utility improvements, including the extension of water, wastewater, stormwater, telecommunications, broadband, fiber optic, all of that being very key to folks who don't want to commute, want to stay home or stay in the area to work. So all of that is very attractive for investors. Again, appropriate infrastructure will be available to support public access to the Rappahannock River. Again, trails, public access will be part of this project. Lots of open space, at least one surface water impoundment. Again, another reservoir is encouraged under the comp plan. improvements to Goodwin Drive. You'll see that we are making improvements to Goodwin Drive as part of this project. Also to Route 3, and also preserving right-of-way dedication for the future movement of the Route 20 intersection further west. And of course, right-of-way with Vaucluse Road, Tuning Road, as well as Pilgrim Church improvements. And again, also expand the electric energy footprint. When you have more growth, when you have more investment, you need power. Next, please. So, as I noted, what's tied to the hip of the GWAP? It's your plan development mixed-use zoning district. Again, it incorporates a GWAP. It allows mixed use of interrelated and compatible commercial, institutional, residential, and recreational uses in a pedestrian-oriented neighborhood. Provide a level of density and intensity in order to promote a dynamic and convenient neighborhood. Again, the town centers will be important to that. But then you also have your traditional type of development with the larger estate lots and single-family units in some townhouses. Exemplify the traditional communities that are pedestrian-oriented. You're going to see we're going to have access for pedestrians off-site to come on-site. We want you to come on-site, spend money, come into the town center, eat, and shop at our restaurants and shop at our retail stores. And then we're going to have bike mobility, and in the future we hope to have public transportation within the project as well. We're also going to be incorporating preserving and protecting natural sites and features. You'll see that in our plan again, well over 1,100 acres of open space that we preserve. We'll be utilizing stormwater principles that preserve and protect runoff. We'll also provide for the efficient use of land, which preserve open space. Area standards. Under the PDM zoning district, you only need 20 minimum acres. We've got 2,618. The minimum area related to non-residential development, that site that means your commercial site and sort of your town center site, you need to be 10 to 30% of the gross project area. We will exceed that, you'll see. And the maximum gross residential density is 6 to 12 dwelling units per acre. As you know, we're well below that, 1.6 to 2.5 units per acre. It must include at least 2 different types of residential uses: single family, apartments, towns. We've got them all covered. And then minimum open space is 20%. We've got 45% open space from this project. Almost half the project is going to be open space. That 45% do not believe counts what folks are doing, obviously, on the residential units lots. Next, please. Just continue real quick. What are the core elements of your planning development mixed-use guidelines? Neighborhood core, again, the site should have neighborhood core between 10 and 30% of the project, mixing these commercial, residential uses of open space and amenities. And then mixing of uses, again, residential and non-residential being cohesive and compatible, having multifamily, single-family attached units within the central core center of the project, i.e. the town center. Access, at least 2 access points to the project. You'll see that we've got 4. Alleys, again, for sort of a city-like feeling within the town center. You'll see the alleyways and blocks for that. Here later, Zach will show you that. Sidewalk connections, trail connections, all interconnected, so we encourage a lot of pedestrian mobility. And then landscaping, lots of buffering, lots of attractive visual aesthetic views from Route 3 and internally. It just doesn't stop there. When you get internally into the site, you'll see some very attractive landscaping, canopy arrangements and trees. Next, please. And just on that last note on landscaping, there will be homeowner associations and property owner associations. They will be charged with maintaining the restrictive covenants, probably sort of like what you guys have in some of your developments, and maintaining landscaping and ensuring safety. Proposed land uses. So here are the land uses that we're proposing. They'll be within the project. Residential, you'll have a full menu of single-family, 2-family units. You'll have townhomes, multi-family units, assisted living. One of the things that we would like to encourage is age in place in this location, meaning that you can start out having a single-family detached home, you can downsize to something smaller, and then when in need, you can utilize assisted living if you need it. And then the commercial component would include office professional services, medical, office, veterinarian, all within the town center area. Commercial recreational uses, restaurants, we all want to go to restaurants. Every community I work in, everybody wants to go to restaurants. Financial services, everybody's got to have a bank to go to, right, close by. Retail and grocer, all of these anchoring their commercial components. Hotels or short-term lodging, maybe bed and breakfast, would be attractive within the town center. Hospital and medical facilities, we'd love to have it in the town center. We think with the type of synergy that we can create here, you're going to attract medical investment. The town center itself, the commercial retail, residential will be attached to the office retail as part of the components. You'll have office professional services, medical office, restaurants, specialty retail. Under flex light industrial, what does that mean? You'll have medical technology. So today's industrial is not what our fathers and grandfathers' industrial used to be. Big smokestacks, very unattractive buildings. A small management team would be located on site. Everything is in one sort of site. You've got the office, large management in the office. You've got assembly. A lot of it is robotic. You've got strong technology components to it, so it's a completely different game. You'll have limited manufacturing and processing, again, sort of that technology component, data centers, research and development centers, corporate educational campus could occur here, wholesale distribution or warehouse that could also occur here. Again, these economic development centers you'll see will be all light flex industrial, and you'll see as we talk a little bit about land-based excavating, that cannot be developed for residential for the years up there until 2030 and 2035. So again, to allow us lots of time to market and attract these users using industrial and commercial investors. And in parks, you'll see public recreation uses of amenities and facilities, and public trails and active open space. Next, please. So here's all you need to plan. I'm going to have Zach come up. This is Zach's work. He's been working on this, as Kenny noted, for about 2 years. So I'll let Zach go through.
Thanks for having us. Again, my name is Zach Glenn. I'm the land planner for the project. As Kenny mentioned, I've been involved in this for a long time. There's a lot of iterations of this to get to this point, to get here. These are also represented in the boards around the room, so if you didn't get a chance to look on your way in, please look on your way out. The graphic is a little stronger on paper than it is on the screen. But we highly encourage you to take a look at that as you finish up the meeting. Kind of the purpose of a plan this size is to isolate land uses. Again, this is a change of zoning that we're going for with this application. So it's to isolate land uses and to designate land uses as they relate well to the natural environment, and transportation as they relate to each other. Next slide, please. The first area is that we're isolating is our residential land base. These are intended for the various range of homes that Charlie had described in the land use and the areas that this encompasses. The goal here is to really utilize the natural features of the site as well as the proximity to the town center. I've spent a career now studying town center projects, and they work well when residential is incorporated around them and with them. When they're strictly commercial, they don't function that well. So a lot of thoughts going into this plan as it relates to the commercial viability and some of the benefits that commercial folks look to from Route 3 in terms of traffic counts and some of the existing conditions that are there, but also the synergy that this project is going to bring with the addition of the homes that are being proposed here. Next slide, please. So these other residential land uses, the primary uses are a lot of what Charlie mentioned with the attached and detached dwelling homes. But again, we're talking the size and have a broad range of homes. Two-family, multi-family residences. There's a lot of appeal for a site like this for nice garden apartment complexes and urban apartment complexes. It could be a component of the town center. Complementary uses are that assisted living and memory care facility. Small retail uses, when you get to a level of synergy of the size of some of these land bays, we don't want everybody coming out to Route 3 for everything that they need. A lot of successful PUD projects, commercial space and services are sprinkled throughout the community so folks can get a cup of coffee or take their kid to daycare without having to come back and concentrate that traffic along Route 3. So that's a complementary use. Community services, recreation uses and facilities, a lot of private recreation projects of this scale, as well as public recreation, educational facilities, medical technology campuses, and other community-related services. Next slide. The red land bays, again, this shows a lot better on paper than it does here on the screen, are what we're envisioning as true commercial uses. These benefit the location adjacent to Route 3 and some of the infrastructure that we're proposing within the project. And we look to see true true commercial uses for these sites. Next slide, please. And a lot of this marries up to some of the existing commercial on Goodwin Drive. So professional office, medical, professional services, dentists, doctors' offices, accountants, those sort of things. Hotel, short-term lodging. The county is engaged in a hotel study. It's a few years old now, but there's a demand for a flag hotel in this location. There's no hotels here locally. Convenience retail, with or without canopy uses. Again, it's a 4-year project. There are convenience retail things out there that nobody in this room is thinking about that are going to evolve electrification of vehicles and things like that. So we want to make sure that this project is a vision for the future, is ready to receive those future uses. Financial services, retailers and groceries, restaurants and specialty retailers. Again, the plan goes into a lot of detail as to where these uses want to go. A smaller grocer is more suited for the town center, like a Trader Joe's or a Lidl or a grocer of that size. If somebody wants to come in and build a 65,000 square foot grocer like a Publix or a Kroger, that might be more suited in the conventional land use. So we put a lot of thought into where these things work, both trying to play off the retail synergy of the project and really working hard to try to make that town center a successful investment. Complementary uses could be automotive-related sales, service, and repair, product sales, building materials, and other residential land uses that may complement the commercial uses. Next slide, please. The town center is really the core of the project. That was envisioned through the GWAP. It's long been a part of the discussion for this. As Charlie mentioned, there's a lot of retail leakage that happens in the corridor. There are a lot of folks living in the corridor that are spending their money outside of Orange County. And this project aims to fix that by providing places for commercial establishments here within the corridor, close by to existing residences, as well as what we're proposing within the project. So the town center basically occupies the space along Route 3 and the proposed Gold Line Parkway. Gold Line Parkway is a parallel arterial road that would parallel Route 3 to keep local traffic off of Route 3 is what the aim of that roadway is. So we utilize that space to kind of bound the town center. That would be a walkable town center. It would be blocks. It would be more of an urban form. And that would be the aim there. So if you've seen Newtown in Williamsburg, that's a really simple example. We've studied a lot of that project as an example, as the basis for what we're trying to accomplish here. Next slide, please. So the town center is convenience retail. It's those walkable communities that we all enjoy. Attached residential to office or retail, so there may be apartments over top of a strip of retail or office buildings. Office and professional services, medical offices, restaurants, specialty retailers. These all want to be clustered together. You want to be able to get your goods and services, maybe grab a cup of coffee or go to a restaurant, or you're able to pick up something after you visit your doctor. Anchor uses, again, in the study of these town centers that we've looked at, they're always anchored by something. Whether that's a grocer, a lot of the ones we've seen recently are a movie theater or an entertainment use anchor, is to really draw people in. So you're going there, you're spending the evening, you're spending your dollars and your entertainment value there in the town center. Complementary uses are residential. Again, a lot of the success of these are people wanting to live in that environment. They want to ditch the car, and they want to be able to walk to a lot of the things they do day to day and not be so vehicularly dependent. Medical technology and educational campuses, really anything that brings people into these spaces attribute a lot to their success, and then civic, public, and institutional facilities as well. Next slide, please. On the far side, this is over behind Goodwin Drive, where the food line is, and that's where we're looking for those flex light industrial users. We feel like that's an appropriate use there. Next slide, please. And what some of those may look like, as Charlie's mentioned, was limited manufacturing processing. Again, this isn't our typical industrial park from 50 years ago. A lot of these are very high-tech, high-paying jobs. Flexible office and storage, warehousing for light industrial users and contractors. I'm sure a lot of the contracting that happens for the homes in this area probably would come from outside the area because there's not a lot of this space available. Data centers or research and R&D facilities, wholesale distribution, warehousing, and automotive-related uses such as service and sales. Restaurants, specialty retailers, recreation facilities. There's a really large market right now in population centers for private recreation facilities. Indoor soccer fields, indoor sports facilities for folks to have places for their kids to have practices, because public space is often so confined. And all the commercial land uses would fit into this. Next slide, please. And finally, the EO zone, or the economic opportunity zone. This was a primary component of the GWAP plan. Our teams worked very hard to isolate where this makes the most sense for both Orange County and the applicant. As Charlie mentioned, this is 732 acres that we're proposing here. We really feel like this gives the county an opportunity to attract economic opportunity and jobs to the county through a project. The housing that comes along with that is also a key component of attraction to those people that are looking to put their roots down as businesses and invest in whatever their business line is. So having good quality housing nearby is key. So this is a major component of our project. This is a major component of the Germana Wilderness Area Plan that we've maintained throughout the project. Next slide, please. And what some of those uses may be, those high-tech, flex, light industrial users, security and defense. This site is, with a site of this size, a lot of times security and defense users are looking for land around them. They want to be isolated. They want to be away from people. Medical technology campuses, data centers, R&D facilities, wholesale distribution and warehousing, again, anchor retail, entertainment, grocers, all the commercial land uses, and then again, the town center and the residential uses as the development restrictions expire. This is a lot of land to consider, and we've worked with the county to put a time frame on that for the economic development uses. Next slide, please. And finally, the final land use is open space. We're wanting to do public parks for the county. There's a demand for public parks now. There'll be a future demand as this project hopefully moves forward to have public space for recreation fields, trails, parks, and whatnot. Next slide, please. So those could be public recreation centers, uses and facilities. It could be a rec center, it could be a senior center. It could be parks, ball fields, public trails and parks. Throughout the natural area, and you see this in the transportation plans that we presented, there is a multitude of pedestrian connectivity, both on road, multi-use trails that we're used to seeing in communities like this, and in natural areas, inviting people to get into the natural space and enjoy it. So any public facilities would definitely be into that program. And complementary uses, we go to the communication and public safety is key, both for the county's fire and EMS systems and police and the sheriff's office. So we want to make sure that those are potential in these green spaces, as well as education facilities. That there could be a public school or a vocational school available in those locations. Next slide, please. So what does this look like? We've put a decent amount of time in kind of envisioning this. This is a concept. It's not necessarily what will happen, but it's also tough to envision what 2,800 acres or 2,600 acres looks like. So these are some graphics that we proposed. This is the town center from Route 3. This would be kind of, if you were driving this today, this would just be to the east of the post office that you would see this vision here. So this is the town center. It's an internal streetscape, but a lot of that manicured landscape buffering from Route 3, a lot of our landscape standards speak to maintaining existing vegetation where it's safe and effective to do so. There's a lot of really nice old growth hardwood trees on the site. So as this project matures, the applicant will be studying that to make sure that those are appropriately maintained. Again, where it's safe to do so. Next slide, please. This is our streetscape. This is Bartley Street, I think is what we call it. Through the middle of the town center to kind of get the scale. This is your walkable town center with streetscapes, vendors and shops with retail out in the open space, dining, outdoor dining, highly walkable. And the goal here is that you come, you get your goods and services, you park your car one time, or maybe you move across it, you bike over, or you maybe in the future you use a golf cart to get over. But you come to this space and you enjoy the time. We've also programmed entertainment uses like large amphitheater spaces in the town center as well. Next slide, please. This is the commercial section, so this will just be beyond Gilbert Drive. Actually, the far building you see on the top of the slide there is where we model the food line. But this is where you have some more conventional commercial uses, like a hotel, a flagged hotel, like a Hampton Inn or a Hilton Garden or something like that. But in keeping with the spirit of some of the goals of the GMAP, we've worked really hard to urbanize those. So instead of having a large parking field in front of them, they would be up on the street corner and building that architectural frame, and we'd be hiding the parking behind those buildings, a way to kind of take a lot of those goals of the look and the feel and the streetscape and the scale of this project as it relates. We've also showed some residential areas here, so this again is exhibiting our alley-loaded residential, which is also a goal of the small area plan as well. Next slide, please. Finally, parks and open spaces is an example of a multitude of parks that would exist within this. This is an urban park in the town center. It's an amphitheater where there can be events hosted, concert series, Friday night concert series, or something along those lines by the Property Owners Association. There is a qualification in the area plan that there has to be so much open space within the residential. So notwithstanding the numbers that Charlie mentioned of the open spaces being preserved, there's also internal requirements within each of these land areas that we've described today that other open spaces have to happen. So there's town-like development. There's a place for kids to go, kick a ball or fly a kite or play with their RC car or whatever they're into. These numbers that we propose today doesn't even contemplate that. That will continue as we move into the future, and those will be highly landscape spaces also maintained by the property or homeowners associations. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. So moving on next to fiscal impacts, and again, these are some assumptions that our consultant put together. We wanted just to remind you, the county requested the development team project out 40 years. Was actually for determining what the impact may be 40 years out. So the purpose of the modeling was to stress the system to see what impacts would occur over that period of time. All model results were expressed in 2020 dollars and not inflated in the future. RKG, who's our consultant on this, conducted the analysis and interviews with various different county departments. We've already been through the ARC review process. We've spoken to the various different departments, including fire and rescue, sheriff's office, county schools, parks and rec, planning, zoning, and county board of supervisors. And as part of that process, we got their feedback on what they believe the impact would be and what they would be. Development projections for the number of new homes, population, new commercial space are based on historical reference points in the real estate market and census data. And then again, we met with ARC on September. We are resubmitting back to ARC our responses to their comments by September 30th, 2022, which is next week. Next, please. So here are the numbers. So we took into account, obviously looking at number of townhomes and number of single-family units and number of various multifamily units, retail services, restaurants, etc. Took that into account from a period of 2020 to 2060. Next, please. And here's the data, the output data from that analysis. And this needs to be updated. The numbers will likely be higher, and much higher, as it does not include the 732 acres of economic development opportunities that you saw earlier, where we're trying to encourage commercial investment, which I think will generate significant net positive tax revenue for the county. So if you look at just years 1 through 10, you're netting a $4.2 million after the offset to county services and impacts. So as a project grows, the generation of revenues grows. It goes to $21.5 million of net positive revenues. Again, as it grows from 21 to 30, you get $60.9 million in net positive revenues. And again, the last stage, you're looking at $133.4 million in positive net revenues at full build-out. Again, that's a very conservative number. It does not include the economic development zone area. Your construction employment, just for the first 10 years of the project, again, we started this process in 2020, so we've been going on for a while. Over 3,300 construction jobs during the first 10 years to generate $401 million in economic output. That's wages, money spent in the community, and then approximately 1,237 permanent jobs will be created in that first 10 years, generating $105 million in total economic output. Hopefully this folks spending money here in Orange County. So what are the proffer statements? So part of the rezoning application process includes not only a submission of our planning, our general lot development plan, and the design guidelines that Zach just talked about, but all of which are proffered, meaning that we are going to commit to develop a project pursuant to those plans, pursuant to the information that's in those plans. And it's sort of our restricted covenant, right, that runs with our property. So if the board of supervisors was to approve this project, we'd be subject to these requirements. We would have a mix of residential uses in the project, various mix of residential uses in the project. Are dedicating land to the county for a regional park. We're also, in addition to that, constructing and installing new recreational facilities for the dedicated park area. I'm going to get to that slide in a bit. We're preserving over 35% of the property, about 900 acres will be preserved and undeveloped. We're going to dedicate a future school site. We're going to dedicate a future public safety building site. And there'll be a limitation on the development of XWV and TV, no residential development on that in those areas through 2030 and 2035, respectively. Next, please. So here's the open space and recreational plan. You see lots of open space in green. You see the dark green includes the park areas, the regional park here to your lower end, and the larger park towards the north of the project. The Rappahannock River is to your far right. Route 3 is to your far right. Next, please. Here's the recreational ball fields that we'd be constructing. You'll see that it includes various different types of fields, soccer, field hockey, possibly football. We've also got tennis courts, pickleball courts, general meeting areas, etc. This will be built by the developer dedicated to the development. Next one. Continuing with our proffer statement, again, these are just sort of key proffers. There's lots in the proffer statement. These are sort of our key proffers. Phase 1 of our development will include the construction of Bull Mine Parkway, which is an internal parkway into the project off of Route 3. We'll also be developing a mix of residential, commercial, industrial uses, and economic development focus during those first 10 years. Construction of property phase 1 transportation improvements, we'll get to those in just a little bit. Extension and construction of RSA water and sewer utilities. Mine evaluation and mitigation. There's been discussion and some questions regarding the mines that are on the site. We'll get to that in just a little bit in these slides. That will be evaluated and mitigated whether there's a shovel in the ground. Dedication of the dedicated park area, completion of park area improvements. We build those ball fields, etc., and dedicate those to the county. And then dedication of the school site and the public safety site. And then construction of applicable amenities, those mini parks that Zach was talking about, the trails, etc., that have clubhouses and pools, etc., that go with all the various different residential developments. Next, please. So for transportation, during phase 1, we will be providing the following improvements at these key intersections. So just a little background on the transportation component. What you do for zoning projects is you put together a scoping plan. That scoping plan is we're going to look at various different intersections that our project would impact, and we study those intersections to determine whether or not the project would degrade the level of services at those intersections. So we don't get to create what that scoping looks like. We make a proposal what that scoping looks like, but VDOT and the county approve the scoping. So we have been working quite extensively with VDOT and the county on what that scoping is, and then evaluating what our mitigation plan will be. So we're going to be making improvements to these following intersections in phase 1, and you'll see we'll be making them again in phase 2 as the project grows out. So there'll be improvements on Route 3. It includes road intersections at Route 3 and Post Office Road. Route 3 Lake the Woods Way at Goodwin Drive. There'll be a significant amount of improvements there. Partnership Way at Goodwin Drive. Route 3 at Flatman Drive and Germanna Heights Drive. Route 3 at Somerset Ridge Road. Route 3 at Development Entrance 1 will have construction of an unsignalized entrance along Route 3 between Post Office Road and Valcluse Road, restricting the entrance left in, right in, and right out only movements. We'll also have improvements at entrance 2, which is the construction of a new unsignalized entrance. VDOT doesn't like signals, by the way, if you guys knew that or not. Construction of unsignalized entrance along Route 3 between Goodwin Drive and Post Office Road, restricting entrance to right and right out movements only. And then Route 3, at the development entrance 3, construction of new unsignalized entrance of Route 3 between Goodwin Drive and Post Office Road, restricting the entrance right and right out. Next, please. Phase 2 key improvements will be Route 3 and at Route 20, Route 3 at Vickers Road again, Route 3 at Lake of the Woods Way and Goodwin Drive, Route 3 and Flat Glen Drive and Comanche Heights Drive, Route 3 at Somerset Ridge Road, Route 3 at Golden Line Parkway, and then Route 3 at the development entrance 1 to restrict right in, right out only movements. There's a lot of detail of these improvements. You and I, we would be here till about 10 o'clock tonight if I went through all of them. They're in our proffer statement. We submitted it to the county, and we can get you more details if you've got questions. With all improvements for phases 1 and 2 of the project, it has been determined pursuant to the analysis that it operates at acceptable level of services for each studied intersection, meaning that we will not degrade those intersections. This has obviously been reviewed by VDOT in the county. And you also probably know that VDOT is planning improvements along that corridor, so we're kind of jumping ahead of that timeline-wise, which VDOT obviously is pretty excited about. Extensive pedestrian mobility, as I noted earlier, to and from the site. We're going to have pedestrian access, hopefully including under Route 3 to the site. We'll see how that plays out. But we will have pedestrians from outside coming into the site, and obviously within the site, extensive walkability, biking, and hopefully a future public transit plan one day. Post-phase 2 transportation improvements as the project goes out, because we can only project so far out. We've got to come back to the table. We've got to come back to the county and VDOT with an updated transportation impact analysis. At that point in time, which would be a current time, there'll be another evaluation. So this is not done in a vacuum. This is not just sort of throwing it up against the wall and see what happens. We actually have to come back and do this all over again. And also be making roadway dedications as well. Importantly, for the future relocation of Route 20 and Route 3 intersection. Next, please. So here, the transportation plan, if you can see it. Keith, I don't know if you want to come and kind of walk through some of the improvements that are up on the plan. Want to do that real quick? My eyesight is horrible. You probably will for me with this thing. Keep those for the desk to get out. Walk through this real quick.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. So Route 3 again on the left-hand side of the page, that being obviously an existing road, an arterial road, but the goal is to preserve that road, or is to maintain that road as one that is not carrying the bulk of our local traffic. The idea is to have, more than the idea, the goal, the intent is to have that blue line, the Gold Line Parkway that begins at where VDOT has, in other documentation, suggested where the future Route 20 will tie in, which is west of its current location. That's exactly where we're tying into Route 3, and we have the Gold Line Parkway that extends through the site and beyond the site, utilizing a combination of traffic circles along the way. Again, no signals, very clean use, large traffic circles that are appropriately sized for the 4-lane divided roadway that we anticipate here. Along that tie-in where the future Route 20 is, it goes parallel to Route 3. We also have Core Drive divided roadway, again, plunging into the site. That's the other blue line that's moving away from Route 3 plan, as you see it here, east and west versus north and south. And that would carry the bulk of the internal development traffic between the residential and economic opportunity zones as you get deeper into the project. These roads obviously would be built in phases.
Do you have somebody who might point to what you're talking about? Because you're real familiar with all this, but am I the only one who's not? No. If somebody can like,
You can tell us landmarks, like where's the.
Look at that. Hey, I can be mobile. Look at this. This is cool. All right. All right. I guess I should have. So this is Route 3, right? Route 20. Route 20 currently ties in about here, right? And the relocated Route 20 is anticipated to tie in here. That's not our plan. That's VDOT's plan that they have documented for several intersections along the Route 3 corridor. So we're aligning with VDOT's anticipated location relative to Route 3, and this is what we're calling Gold Line Parkway. It goes parallel to Route 3, and it's again intended to carry and serve the internal traffic off of Route 3. Essentially, once you turn into the development to get into the development, you don't interact with Route 3 until you either want to go to Charlottesville or go to Fredericksburg and Richmond. That's the idea. So this is a 4-lane divided roadway, traffic circles, no signals. This is a similar 4-lane divided roadway, which comes into the site and serves appropriately the different land bays and uses along the way, all the way to our what we have right now as a park area. This would extend externally, could extend externally. This could extend externally. We obviously can't connect Spotsylvania County or across the Rapidan River, so we're limited in there through the environmental sensitivity to where we can expand, but to everywhere we can expand at points west, we certainly are. Again, plunging off of Route 3, this is truly this is an R-cut signal in the future, and that is one of actually the only true new signal that's being proposed by this. All the rest of them are right in my house, unsignalized. Sorry, the post office is right here. I apologize. And this is the food line and everything right here. Okay, I apologize. And then in and through the town center are these maroon local streets that intend to carry very, very local traffic through the spine of the development. Obviously, there's going to be numerous other internal roadway networks that are impossible to predict right now. That would be sensitive to the proposed uses on each site, whatever they may be. There's, for example, we could easily come off this traffic circle and have a road that connects these two. Not sure how that's going to play out until you actually get a use there planning those roads. So that sort of detail at this point is simply impossible.
So is the Pilgrim's Church Road, is that also what we know as Goodway?
No, heading west. Goodway. Open church.
West of the post office.
Oh, Pilgrim Church Road. The church. It's the church is a retaining piece of land right here that it goes around. I sincerely apologize. And there's a right in, right out that's served.
And we're going to answer more questions when we break up, and after this, we'll be at different stations. Try to be easier to ask the question at the stations.
So I just want to give a
thank you.
broad impromptu overview.
It's obviously quite expensive in a lot, which was my point earlier, and we want to give you as much information as you desire to have. It's just very concentrated, so we break up and we talk more about it. If you go to the next slide, please. Next slide is just a master plan. We've gone through this quite a bit and it had more color to it, but just sort of a layout of the master planning here. Next, please. Utilities plan to extend utilities within the site, including obviously, water and sewer. Next, please. Impoundment and mining mitigation. So there have been some questions about mining, the abandoned mines on the site. So we are going to review, analyze, and mitigate where required. So there are 5 documented and 1 undocumented existing abandoned mines. We think those mines were abandoned around 1938, although there was an attempt, I think, to open a mine in the 80s. There's not a whole lot of data on that front, but they've been abandoned for quite a bit of time. There are no known hazardous impacts for the said mines. There's some speculation. There's been some older reports that thought that there was some pollutants on the site, but to our knowledge, there are none. But with the rezoning process, we have proffered this. So we're going to be required to review, oversee, not us oversee, but the county and the applicable state agencies will oversee and remediate any pollutants at these mines. So that's going to be sort of the first stage of what we do if this project's approved. Again, all review and mitigation measures will conform with the oversight of Orange County, the Virginia Department of Energy, which has a primary jurisdiction here, and then the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality as well, if remediation is required. We have hired from Petroleum Roberts, a consultant to assist us who has expertise in the mine area. He's here tonight as well. Zach, who's here to help us with that process. So we're already contemplating that analysis and what needs to be done. See, I got him up there, retained consultant. I just didn't put his name up, but he's with us. And again, we've proffered to go through various different phases as part of this process. We're not doing this by ourselves. We're going to be doing this in conjunction with the county and local agencies to ensure that this is handled properly. Next, please. All right, 2 questions. If we can go to the light back. What I think we'll do is take some questions and then we'll break up and go to various different tables. And then we can go through it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I say you're getting in first. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you could go way back to the beginning of the slide where you were showing the 2,600 acres of development, can you go back to that?
Sure. And Logan, I think that is slide. It's going to be the first master plan, I think is what you're talking about. So it's going to be the master plan, land use plan, which is going to be slide already numbers on here. Slide 10. There you go.
One more actually has the Parkway holds the 2,600.
Go ahead and go to the first slide. I think that's what you're doing.
Get that very first slide. Okay. Now, I think that as a community, regardless of your position of the for or against, whichever political party, doesn't matter. I think we're all in agreement that we probably need more growth out here. It makes sense. We want to expand what could be better, expand this area for jobs and income housing. Agreed. But now getting to just simple numbers. That whole project area that you encompassed, you showed all the boundaries, is that the 2,600 acres that you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Of that 2,600, you're taking approximately 45%, or 1,100 acres, is open space.
Right.
Okay. Of that, 2,600 minus 12, almost 1,200, just rounding, is 1,400 acres. 1,400 acres, and you're trying to squeeze 4,200 housing into that?
Well, Yes, to a certain extent, because remember, we have 732 acres, which is being set aside for economic development, right? So the contemplation under the underlying zoning ordinance and under your GWAP is to create cluster developments. It is, and it is to create a mix of various different housing. So what we're following is exactly what's encouraged under the comprehensive plan and under your plan development use ordinance. And again, this is, when you put up numbers like this, everyone automatically thinks, not everyone, but some folks automatically think, oh my gosh, it's going to be here tomorrow, it's going to be here next year. It takes a very, very long time. This is why we're projecting out 40 years for this project.
I understand that, but your 1.6 to 2.5, you're throwing in the option to go up another 50% up to 6,500 units.
Yeah, so,
Now, granted, that is what the county allows as far as building requirements per acre. What is your actual forecasted housing? Are you trying to reach 6,500? Because 6,500 on almost 1,400 acres is a heck of a lot more than 2.5.
They serve 400 acres, does not include the commercial development they want to do.
That's not what I originally.
No, I agree with you, it's much worse. The 1,400 acres still includes all the economical developments and the town center and all that, so that's much less than the 1,400.
So that is actually exacerbating the problem of, okay, so you got 1,400 acres that's being used to get up to 6,500 houses. That's not counting all of the town center, the parks, the commercial, the industrial, the restaurant, the town center.
if your question is
Where do
it,
numbers make sense?
well, what our project makes sense of is to follow your comprehensive plan. Your comprehensive plan encourages a clustering of development. So that means in the town center area, you're going to have a mix of commercial and residential uses. You're going to have some townhouses. You're going to certainly answer your question. You're going to have some townhouses. You're going to have apartments, but you're also going to have traditional larger lots in the back of the project. It is intended to create a mix of residential uses, and it is intended for them to be fairly dense. Yes, that is the intent. But the use of this property is just not going to be for residential uses. It is also, it's got a very strong commercial and retail and economic development component to it. So you have to have those synergies to make it work. And those synergies will create a dynamic environment in each location. And again, this is what is contemplated under your comprehensive plan. This is exact type of plan. Then you had your hand up first. I'll come to you next. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I think you painted a really beautiful picture of what could be in the future. And I think you know that the devil is also in the details. And I think the devil at this point, from my perspective, is the one that we glossed over, which is those lines.
Yes.
Because I saw another presentation in one of your earlier submissions, you identified 7 lines. 14 lines have actually been identified with land surveys that have been done back to, I think, 1935. Those just didn't disappear. They're filled with mercury. They're part of the tail for the mining project. So my question is, you said, given the approval of this project, shouldn't the viability of this project be based on not building on a toxic landfill?
Yeah. I appreciate your comment, and I think it's a good comment, a good question. I have to disagree with you that there are 14 abandoned mines on site. We know of 5, 5 minimum, 1 that was not approved and in site. We're going to review those areas where we think there's likelihood that those mines are located. We're going to study those areas, and we're going to make sure that there are not pollutants, and if there are, they will be addressed. Yes, ma'am, we had your hand up first. No, please.
First statement,
Okay.
the statement is when you're talking about a unit, you're not necessarily talking about an individual dwelling unit.
Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about apartments that have those within and take up considerably less land space than an individual,
So-
estate type unit.
Right, so if there's an apartment building with 300 units, it counts as 300 units, not one.
Right, but it's not taking, it's taking up maybe a half acre.
Well, it takes up more than that.
That's part of it. When you take, even if you take that premise of having apartment buildings or even townhomes, then you can get 5 townhomes on 1 acre, okay? What's the volume of vehicles, traffic, and everything else that's coming in? Because again, as the gentleman said in the back, I was just saying, take that whole 1,400 acres as housing. Now, looking at the size of all of the other stuff, not counting the square footage in acres that the land roads are going to be taking and not putting houses on, you are jacking that number up. So I think would be a more applicable question is, based off of your forecasted drawing, and where you suspect single-family homes are going to be, townhomes are going to be, and apartment complexes are going to be, what is your legitimate forecasted number of actual units? Not the 42 to 6,500 that the county allows, but what is your real number? And if you're approximate within, we might be able to get 80 single-family houses in this area, but we can squeeze in 85 if we cut it this way. No problem. We're going to have so many townhomes here. We're going to have so many apartments. What is the real number that you're looking to get? Not what the county allows, but what your actual plan is showing and forecasting would probably be better on the minds of people here
So-
trying to guess.
Yeah, so you've asked a few questions, I'll make sure everyone else has a chance to talk. But county, you say allows, the ordinance and the underlying comprehensive plan, which is your vision for the future, is a 50-year vision, okay? It encourages 6 to 12 units an acre, right? If you do the math on that, it's 31,000 units. So what we're doing is we're trying to create a predictability model for 40 years out based on land base where we're trying to encourage certain growth. It may be 6,500 or it may be 4,200 or it may be less than that. I don't know. But what we're trying to do is create an environment that's consistent with your comprehensive plan, consistent with your underlying zoning ordinance, so we can create those type of synergies and mix of uses that are encouraged. You can't create a town center without synergy of development. I'm sorry, you got to. It's the only way to do it. Okay? Sir, in the back.
Yes, I believe there are a number of people here tonight who like the woods. And I have a question specific to the intersection of Route 3 and Lake of the Woods Way / Goodman Drive. So my question is this: can you confirm or dispel what I heard a couple of people say? That with this plan, I will no longer be able eventually to exit Lake of the Woods and cross directly over Route 3 to get the food line, the pharmacy, the bank, etc.
If you want to answer that question, you get a tough one. But remember that this plan is consistent with what VDOT was already planning. So remember.
I just would like an answer to the question, sir. Irrespective of who you say is responsible.
To reiterate the point that Charlie just made, and I understand that you're not concerned about the responsibility, but it needs to be clear, okay? The plan for Route 3 is for an R-cut style intersection. The purpose of the R-cut style intersection is to increase traffic safety by disallowing the direct through movement from Lake of the Woods across the street to Goodwin Drive. In order to get that way, one would need to turn right and do the U-turn. That is not our plan. That is VDOT's plan. This project, as an aspect of the improvements, would expand VDOT's R-cut intersection in a certain way. The return right-hand turn, for example, instead of a single lane, would be a dual lane, and as a result, would have an associated signal to control that and to make that movement safer for the increased capacity.
Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You raised your hand. I'm sorry, once people ask questions, but he's had his hand. Yes, sir.
Question, and it's one mistake. I looked at your plan on the remediation. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Richard Trost. And before I retired from EPA, I was senior scientist on program. I have reviewed dozens of sites on remediation. And the plan that you have in your phase one is totally inadequate. Just scratch it from there, start again. Looking at the mine portals for mercury residue is not where you'd like it to find them. You look at the processing of gold, it takes a lot of water and chemicals to flocculate gold out of the quartz and other rock. You grind, crush it, you run it through water, you run it through mercury, and you get gold mercury complexes. That's later processed, and the mercury is supposed to, under new rules, be refined, reprocessed, and clay. 1930s, forget it, it's all underground. And proof to that is finding the mercury residues in the Rapidan, which tells me as a scientist and a toxicologist that those processings probably weren't all in one place, but were located closer to the Rapidan River and that stream that borders Pennsylvania. That's where we got the water source to do the flocculation and reclaiming of the gold out of the rock. You go look at the mine portals, you're not going to find it. Guarantee you that you're there.
Just my luck, I had to pick someone in the audience who's PhD University, EPA. But I appreciate your comments. I will say this, that we are not trying to dodge this. This is obviously something that's very important to the community. We brought on professional consultants. We've been talking to the Department of Energy, who has jurisdiction over this. What is the process? A lot of what you see in those profit statements is discussions with people. Here's the process. Here's how it lays out. So I don't want anyone in the room to think that we're remotely dodging this. This is something very serious. It doesn't help our project if there's pollutants on this land. But just quite honestly. So we have every interest in the world to make sure we address it. So I don't want anyone in the room to walk away from here thinking that we're somehow. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if the Goodwin Drive and the crossover from Lake of the Woods, if VDOT had a plan to eliminate that prior to your project development.
The traffic engineer unfortunately couldn't be here. He has a little more accurate information. My understanding from him is that the funding is being sought by the county for that project. I do not know if it has been funded, but it is being sought for, excuse me, I said the county, I think the federal funding is being sought for that project.
And the objective there is what? I don't understand what the
objective is to construct the alternate intersection, the alternate style intersection.
For your development?
No,
okay.
For the safety of the intersection.
Okay. Okay.
All this was set in place, not associated with our development. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yes, sir. And I'll go to the back. Yes, sir. Here it is. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm not dodging the mercury issue. Are you going to sign off on the DEQ volunteer remediation program?
I don't know the answer to that, and I say that because if we find pollutants and that's part of the process, absolutely. Why wouldn't we? But we retain a consultant, a professional consultant to help us with that process, and if that ends up being where we have to be for purposes of remediation, absolutely.
Right now, your proffer statement only says if it's required. So are you willing to revise your proffer statement?
If it's required.
Yeah, it's a non-starter.
DEQ is not going to require it.
Well, look, I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into a debate on what might be there, what might not be there. Let's do our analysis, and when we do our analysis, we're going to submit it to the county, and the county and the appropriate jurisdictional agencies will work with us to prove what we have to do and don't do. I mean, again, we're not dodging this. This has to be addressed. And, I don't want anyone to walk away from the perception that we're not doing it. Sir, in the back, you had, yes, sir, in the back.
Excuse me? Okay.
Yeah.
Ally Felner, from Lake of the Woods. Could you put the picture up with the route view from Route 3, please?
I'm sorry, the view from where?
Route 3.
This is not necessarily a view from Route 3.
That's what you said it was. And that's what it says on the slide, too. Okay. Your proffer statement says that the setback from the right-of-way of Route 3 is 100 feet, 30 yards. And that within that 30 yards will be a 50-foot vegetation area. And the wording goes on to say that you want to have the signage visible from Route 3. So my question is this. A, is that, well, two questions. A, is that meant to be a 100-foot setback? And B, which way is the town center or those buildings along Route 3 going to be oriented? Are they oriented toward the street or inland toward your town center?
Zach, you can answer that question. Good question.
So this is demonstrating it's a 50-foot parking setback and a 100-foot building setback. The landscape is within the 50-foot parking setback, and the orientation of the buildings is towards the internal streetscape. But they'll have architecture on the backside. And the design guidelines, which are submitted as part of the proffer statement, goes into a lot of detail about the amount of landscape, the quantities of landscape, the type of landscape, screening and buffering of utilities, services like dumpsters and grease traps and the non-fun stuff associated with restaurants and things like that, as well as parking and burning. We also go into detail in that same statement about maintenance of existing vegetation where it's practical and safe, that land hasn't been disturbed to make that to make those existing trees unsafe. I do want to point out that we've had some comments we can get back to the land use plan. Some of the frontage on Route 3 the applicant doesn't control. I think there's a misnomer there that we control the frontage of Route 3 throughout the whole project. There's several hundred feet that we don't control. That's owned by a different entity.
I have two questions about Route 20. I live on Route 20. So you're going to do a new entrance from 3 to 20. You say it's going to be a little bit further west. Where will it join the existing Route 20?
We're not joining the existing Route 20.
No. I'd have to take a measurement. I can come back to you. If you visit me at a table, I can pull it up on my computer, find something. The connection point does move west, and it travels along privately owned property and joins back into 20 with a train or Peakside. Half a mile.
What will happen to the existing businesses that are on Route 20 and the existing center for the Civil War exhibit?
Well, I'd have to look at I'd have to look at the VDOT plan. This is all part and parcel with that same VDOT plan that I'm talking about at the other end.
Is the relocation of Route 20 specifically just to benefit for subdivision?
No.
Or is this something that ZBOT wants to do?
No, this is all part and parcel with the VDOT study that was done independent of this, and performed by VDOT. It's called the Arterial Preservation Plan. That was done by VDOT, and these are all aspects and components of that arterial preservation plan that was done absolutely without any input relative to this project.
I'm led to believe that they had dropped the relocation plan of VDOT, and we're going to put that money into reconfiguring the actual intersections there now. Is that off the table?
I don't know that. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
We're not sure.
Is it a possibility?
Well, it's very expensive to relocate that intersection, so I don't know what VDOT's considering as an alternative. But remember, this project had nothing to do with that planning to relocate that intersection. All that's part of our development is to make sure if they do relocate it, that we're in alignment. That's all it is. Sir, all the way in the back, you had a question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'll come back.
How do citizens know the development order that's going to occur? Is it all going to be commercial first, residential, it's going to be phased, it's going to be mixed? How will that be disclosed, and what guarantees will we have that you will hold to that? And the reason I ask that is I own property at the last undeveloped intersection on 95 between Baltimore and Washington. And it took 10 years to come up with a plan that everybody could agree with. I just want to make sure everything's spelled out and we know what's going to happen in what order in the final plan and an enforcement mechanism.
Well, there is a phase one plan. It does have some flexibility though, because I can't control markets. I can only say the team can only predict what we think is going to occur. We think with a project of this nature, you are going to get likely some immediate retail and commercial on the Route 3 frontage. And we also are hopeful that we're going to get some residential synergy, which will attract that commercial retail component. What goes first, what goes second, I'm not quite sure. But we know we need both of them to create the town center synergy. So that's what we're planning for. That's what we're trying to create incentives for. And don't forget that economic development piece that's to the west. If that takes off sooner rather than later, that's going to be a huge boon from a tax revenue perspective, a job creation perspective, and then what? People need somewhere to live. They want somewhere to eat. They want somewhere to shop. So all of those components can all work together very well. All we're trying to do is create a process and planning to allow these ingredients to kind of mix well together. Yes, ma'am.
Looking at your slides, am I correct to see that right there by the post office, on the left side, you will have that, which is commercial, as you're looking at the post office. And on the right side, you will have what it look like 940 unit apartment building. Will it stand right there on Route 3, looking at Lake of the Woods?
She's asking about the location.
And how many story apartment do you project?
Okay, can you put up the land use plan? So let me make sure I understand your question. You're asking about the extent of the town center, the commercial, what you see from Route 3?
So yes, so if you're looking straight at the post office, right, which is on the north side of Route 3.
Okay, I'll orient you. So this is the post office right here. So this frontage along here and then back to Goodwin Drive, which is back in here, is the commercial frontage that's being proposed.
Correct, but I thought I saw an apartment, or looked like an apartment, a building.
Yeah, there's a hotel, in one of the images, there's a hotel building, yes.
Okay.
It was shown right here on the corner by where the existing Pilgrim Church is.
But I guess my question is, you do not plan a like a high-rise apartment building right there on Route 3. That's really
Yeah, there's a height restriction within the existing zoning, and we're working with the county's planning office currently to identify height restrictions throughout the project.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Back to this end. Yes, sir.
What consideration?
I'm sorry. I'll come back.
I have one simple question. You have a ton of people coming out of your complex on the blue roads. Did VDOT address what they're going to do with Route 3? It's only 2 lane. And you're going to put how many cars on the road in the morning going towards Fredericksburg or Culpeper?
Right.
Did they address that?
Yeah, we have been working extensively with VDOT, and they have reviewed our transportation impact analysis, and they are comfortable with what we're planning to mitigate and offset any impacts from our project. Yes, sir.
All this money that we're trying to draw from the spend in Orange County, like that's going to be traffic. I commute to DC every day, like my commute on my 3 hours, so it's like, I'm not going to get worse than
Well, if you think I'm suggesting there will be traffic, there will be traffic. Our traffic study shows there'll be traffic, and that we have to mitigate it. And there are obviously improvements at entrances into our site. There are improvements that we're making in Route 3. There are improvements that we're making in all those intersections that I named earlier. There's a litany of them, 10 of them plus. So yes, we're making improvements to offset our impact. And again, this is not something we do in a vacuum. This is something we must do in conjunction with the county and the, when we get to somebody. Yes, ma'am, you have to ask a question.
Looking at this map, it seems like if this is happening, the pretty stuff is going to stop at the post office. And then all the industrial stuff will be right opposite the entrance of Lincoln Wood. That means storage machines, that means the government, we say defense, security buildings, all kinds of things. Trucks are going to come day and night. Traffic is going to come. Employees will come. What are you going to do with traffic? And also, it's going to be ugly.
Well, I hope it's not. I think we're planning it in accordance with your future land use plan and zoning ordinance. Yeah, we're hoping for new investment in Orange County. We're hoping it's going to be significant. We hope it's going to create new jobs, new tax revenues, and a vision that the county has forward for the next 50 years. Again, this project will take a very, very long time. And, you know, and I do quite a bit of this. And people don't like change, and they don't like new projects coming in, especially in near neighborhoods. They don't like additional traffic. I get it. But to sustain a community, you must expand your tax base. You must encourage investment. You must encourage new folks to your community so that you can have that long-term investment. And this project, again, is not something done haphazardly. This is something that is following your TLAP. That, if you guys recall, putting that together was an extensive process, had lots of public input. And we are almost to the exact T following it. And instead of taking some other different route and piecemealing this project and putting, you know, just uses that you wouldn't want, because right now it's zoned to do various different types of uses with very little control because it's by right. We're putting together a comprehensive plan that will be consistent with your vision and your underlying zoning district, and you have control over it. To me, that makes a lot of sense. We hope it makes sense to you eventually. And I assume that everybody in the room thinks it's a bad project, but we think it's a very positive project, and we think that it will be good for the community. I want to add, yes, ma'am, you haven't asked a question yet.
I'm interested in construction impacts.
Yes, ma'am.
Bringing in heavy equipment, trucks, the impact again on Route 3. Noise, air quality, possibly water quality impacts. To what extent have you been looking at that and with the State Department of Environmental Quality? Do you need any federal permits with respect to?
I don't think we need federal permits to construct on our site. The plan is to build Gold Mine Parkway sooner rather than later so we can get construction traffic there, stage there. So it's not, you know, coming off all of the entrance locations along Route 3. So that was one of the things that we're thinking about. But we haven't come up with a construction plan yet, if that's your question. That typically happens at site plan stage. So this is zoning stage. Then before you move forward with development, you go to a site plan process, and that site plan process will address much of that.
Will the public have an opportunity to look at that plan?
Yes, ma'am.
What are your projections as to what this is going to do to taxes to those of us that live here?
If you saw in our fiscal impact analysis, it's going to be a net tax revenue generator, is what we're predicting. The first 10 years is over 4 million net positive tax, meaning taxes that are generated offset your impacts to county services, and it has a net positive gain or profit, if you will, over $4 million. Then it goes to 11, then it goes to 20, and then eventually for full build that is over 130. Now remember, it doesn't include the Economic Development Center, which puts those numbers much up higher. I want to have somebody who hasn't asked a question. Yes, sir. You in the back, the red shirt. Yes, sir.
Yes, could you set aside any space for a solid waste transfer facility for recycling and trash? Or do you anticipate people will come to Lake of the Woods or drive to Florida to get rid of their?
Yeah, we have private waste collection requirements. So we're going to retain a contractor or however the HOAs or POAs do it, collect the trash.
Are you hiring residents?
Yes. Yeah, it's in our proper statement. Yes, sir. You have to ask a question. You're up front.
Curious about the reservoir.
Well, we don't have. So you asked about the reservoirs, what the plan was. So the plan is to preserve an area for it. The GPOP predicts or promotes a potential reservoir. So we have actually set aside in our master plan an area for it if it's to occur. Go ahead. Keith, you want to talk a little bit about it? Just real quick, because again, whether it's necessary or not is a different question, but we set it aside in case it's 50 years from now, 40 years from now, maybe very well. So anyway.
To pick up on that point, that's exactly right. The reservoir areas are intended simply to identify locations where there could possibly be impoundments. I personally trace that line, and it's a single contour that goes around and travels the highest possible water that could be reasonably retained by an impoundment. If somebody's grandchildren at some point in the future, it's a tremendous environmental lift to get the permitting necessary to build the impoundment. We are keeping development out of that area so that whenever that lift happens, land doesn't have to be purchased. It's already there. It's safe and ready for the impoundment if it comes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, first I would say thanks for the presentation and the information. I'm actually brand new to the area and I don't know much about these school systems or anything else, but I think you had mentioned when you're designating sites for schools as a living property. When you say you're designating sites, does that mean you're building the school or is that something the town will have to do? And is that factored into your net revenue profits that you're telling everybody?
The latter, yeah. So we're designating a site. We have obviously been talking to the school system and what their needs are. There's no need to build a school anytime soon. So what we're thinking is this project goes out.
You're talking about bringing in, I forget the number, how many housing and more people. And so what we have in this town is adequate to service that, is what you're saying.
Well, remember, this is a really long-term project. So we're not going to get the build out probably for close to 30 or 40 years.
So that has not been factored into your net revenue profits then?
It has. Yeah, we've evaluated school impacts. Yes. Ma'am, you had a question. I'm sorry, I keep missing you.
I feel like we're being rushed when we get to that place here, but I was thinking about all the businesses that you're going to be building, which sound wonderful. The schools, the medical buildings, all of this. I doubt all those people will be living in that community. So that is going to be a huge increase on Route 3, going back and forth to work for all those people that are going to be working there.
Right, so we took into account for our transportation impact analysis what we anticipated for commercial, retail, and residential. So all of that's already included in our analysis. So you're right, it's going to generate traffic, and we didn't avoid it. We included it as part of our analysis. And obviously, what we have proffered for improvements is included to mitigate all the traffic, not just isolated traffic, all the traffic.
Was your analysis done in 2019? I thought I had read that on
We
the
updated
website.
it as of June of 2022.
Oh, that was, okay.
We started out in 2019. Let's get a long road, no pun intended. A couple more questions, because I'd like to, it's almost 7:40. We'd like to, go maybe about 20 more minutes, and folks probably want to mingle around and talk to folks and ask questions of our experts and their representatives. Yes, ma'am. I'll come over here next, I'm sorry.
I wanted to know about the economic development, that section of the project. Can you tell me how far west that this is actually going to go, like where the project will end, the town center? And I guess that would be the economic area.
Yeah, so, you want to tack it out, how far west we are. I'll let their land planner answer that question.
Yeah, so that economic development area, just to orient people again. So this is the post office. So this is about 1,400 feet away. This would be where Goldmine Parkway is. So it's about probably 1,000 feet back behind the site where the post office is where it starts. That property goes, the orientation of this plan is north. So north is that way, towards the windows. So it goes north along the property line to the Rapidan River. So these 4 blocks, and I invite you to look at the boards before you leave, that are cross-hatched are 732 acres. So it wraps up around the western property line, comes up to the Rapidan River and back. And as you're examining these plans, the green spaces with the blue lines are some pretty deep ravines. I've been studying this property a long time, and we're not getting into those areas.
But actually west, I'm talking about going west towards Culpeper. Where is the cutoff for this project?
Okay.
Is it going to be before you get to Walmart? Is it
Yes, yeah.
So it's going to be back by.
This is Food Line right here. So we're just up behind Food Line, probably 1,000 feet west of there, but we don't control that property. So if you were at the Food Line, you drove up, go and drive to where it ends. That's this narrow part of the property here. It doesn't go out to Walmart, or several thousand feet away from that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So just a couple. So just a couple more questions. I missed, yes ma'am, you pink shirt right here, I'm sorry. I missed your last one.
Pennsylvania and everything else given the last months. But the only people that are going to be negatively impacted is going to be local.
Well, I would hope that you're not negatively impacted.
Charlie, could you repeat the question?
I'm sorry, the question is that all the traffic coming to the site is going to negatively impact Lake Woods. And my only answer to that is we're going to have additional traffic. We're going to have lots of interest in the site, we hope. There's a lot of positives with that. And, some folks aren't going to like the new traffic. Some people are. Some people are going to be very excited about amenities and opportunities in this development. New opportunities for shopping and eating, attracting a different generation of employees, Generation Z, folks who are highly skilled employees who want to live in Orange County, and also work in Orange County. So this is an investment plan that's consistent with your vision. And everybody seems to be getting a little restless, they're getting tired. So I'm going to answer one more question, and then we're going to be done all the way to the back. So if you had your hand up for most of the time,
I like I think you call it economical opportunity zones, the zones that are in white crossed. You mentioned something about an expiration date on that particular zoning, that it become open to something else later. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so what we've done is we've capped the ability to put any residential development on those sites during those periods. So, I think it's X and W is limited to 2030 and V and T are limited to 2035, meaning that we could not develop any residential uses on those sites during those periods. It doesn't mean that we still wouldn't be encouraging other types of uses, just means we couldn't develop residential. We want to leave it as open to attract what we think the market is today, to attract the market today for those type of investments. We think we give it a unique opportunity to come here. So that's our last question.
Why are you afraid to not answer more questions?
Well, we're going to break up into these various different stage areas so we can continue to answer questions. All right, you don't want to break up? I'm going to give you 15 more minutes. How about that? Tough crowd. All right, some people are leaving. If everybody's kind of settled down and get a chance, we'll start asking some other folks ask some questions. Yes, sir.
Okay. You dropped a bombshell on us a little bit ago and blamed it on VDOT. You mentioned that the front entrance or the main entrance into Lake of the Woods will be basically eliminated because we have no place to go. We either have to turn right to get out of it or to get out of the main entrance. And to get back into it, we have to go west and then circle back around and turn a right turn to come into the main entrance. So you're basically shutting down the main entrance, those used entrance into Lake of the Woods. Now, I know you said that's VDOT's plan, but you're the victim right here standing in front of us.
Lucky me, right? Look, we do not want to affect Lake of the Woods entrance. I assure you that is not our plan. We have to do an impact analysis. We have to work with current planning, both the VDOT and the county. We have actually little say in how that process plays out. So I know how to think VDOT. VDOT is doing it to improve safety.
No.
So again, what we're doing is part of long-term planning well before us. And it's not intended to hurt you or harm you. That's not our plan, I'm sure. Next question. You've already asked the question, maybe somebody, yes ma'am, you have an answer.
I just wanted to say that I was at a board meeting yesterday, Lake of the Woods board meeting, and they talked about the R cut is what it's called. If you go to your computer and look up R cut, you will see an explanation of what they want to do. I think it sounds like a terrible idea, but nobody asked me. So, but that is in the plans, and that's something that they are preparing to do. But they said probably not until 2030. So, that's a long time.
A lot of these transportation improvements are way down the road. So no pun intended on that either, but they're way down the road. See, that's sort of what happens when you introduce a project to a community, especially in the state. Everybody can kind of calm down. When you introduce a project of this nature, we all think it's going to happen tomorrow. And I want you to know that there's very, very smart planning going on with this project and how it plays out. And I don't want you to think it's going to be impacted tomorrow, but it should not. Yes, ma'am, you got your hand up right there. You haven't asked a question.
No, I haven't. I've never lived anywhere where there was not development, where a new project didn't come in, whether it was Colorado, California, or here. So I know this is going to happen. And usually there are always impacts, as you talk about, but one of the impacts that we've not talked about is the ecosystem and the impact on the Rapidan River and the environment. And we talk about landscaping, and who do you have on your team, or how is your team prepared to really work to make sure that we don't cut down all the trees, that we don't plant aggressive plants that will wipe out native species, that the environment is protected? Because in the long run, what usually happens with most projects is not the people that are harmed, it's the environment. And I know that you have plans, and I'm interested to see them, I'm interested to hear about them.
Thank you. Good
It's all
question. Part of this rezoning requirement is for us to preserve open space. Technically, the owners could go in there and clear all the timber out today, right? So with this plan, we're actually preserving, close to 900 acres. We're proffering 900 acres to be preserved on that site. And and there'll be an additional, overall, there's close to 1,178 acres that are going to be open space areas. Now, to your question about how you, let me answer your question, and I'll let you ask the part B. Okay? So if you're familiar with Virginia, we have something called the Chesapeake Bay Act. And the Chesapeake Bay Act requires you to protect the watershed. It requires you to ensure your development protects the watershed. So you've got to have various levels of requirements regarding stormwater runoff and erosion. You have to set back 100 feet from any sort of resource protection areas. Our planning, if you look at our planning, most of the concentration of the growth is further to the south of the site. So when you get closer to the environmental sensitive areas, you'll see we are a bit less clustered, and we have a lot of open space. And we do love this site for those purposes. We want people to enjoy the walking trails. We want them to enjoy the river. We want them to enjoy the parks. But yeah, there's going to be some disturbance. But like I said, without this project, you could clear the timber tomorrow. So you had a part B question. Or did I answer? Or
Yes, I think open space isn't all the answer, but it's, you showed the picture of the view from Route 3, and I saw lawn. Lawn does nothing to...
Well, that's our town center, so that's going to be closer to the...
but it's just, I know, crepe myrtles are beautiful, but crepe myrtles are not native to this area. They come from Asia. Are you looking at a plan that says we will plant native trees, we will plant native bushes, we will plant, this is what we will do to make sure that the...
We can share with you, but I'm pretty sure almost the revised design and includes all of that landscape and we're proffering that. So we're proffering what our design of our projects will look like. And we've created a manual for that. So I'd be encouraged to have you take a look at it. And I think we have a copy of it here. We have to give it to you. I think you'd be impressed.
So when you say that at this point you're open to making sure that the environment is as well protected through the planting of native species and plants?
Yes, and in fact, we've got that in our planning, so I have to share a copy.
Right, and it's not just here. I mean, this is something I read about in every community around the state. In Colorado and California, they're all starting to look at that.
That's the beauty of the GWAF, is it encourages us to have lots of open space to protect lots of environmentally sensitive areas. That's exactly what we do. You've asked the question before, but I don't see the other hand, so I'll hit you. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm a Lake of the Woods member, owner, and other Lake of the Woods people here know we spend a lot of money for recreational facilities, buildings, community services, and parks and ball fields, which we are actually open to outside our community. Is the owner, Mr. Dodson, willing, and although you show it as a few ball fields in a parking lot, would Mr. Dodson, the owner, be willing to site, design, build, and proffer to the county an actual building that would pull it all together as a government annex building so that Lee Frame could have a real office on our end of the county, and also provide other social services such as health services, building services, and standard departments that we have to drive 30 minutes all the way to the town of Orange to get. So I'm asking you, can you actually build a building and proffer it to the county on your town center so that we can come to and get government services? I'd like to add also that it should include a recreational center that includes possibly an indoor pool, meeting office, meeting places where people can get together and run community meetings and organizations. This is done. This is not something I just came up with. This is done in other counties for large projects of this size. You're basically making a project larger than the town of Orange. You're going to double the population of our corner of this county. You're going to move the epicenter of Orange County to here. I think you guys should really think about investing in an actual building, proffer it to the county, and let us openly use it as a public building and tie it in with your ball fields and your parking lots to truly make it a center of activity for the whole end of the county. The government annexed. We design it and pay for it and include it and proffer it. Just not give us the land. That's not enough. You gotta do the hard work, which is build the building. Make it look nice. Put this indoor swimming pool in. Put the racquetball court.
All right. And I appreciate it. Good comments. As you can see in our plan, we are building, constructing, dedicating recreational facilities, park, trail access, lots of great amenities for the public. Next question.
That type of recreational will be open to like.
Yes, ma'am.
We can go to a pool.
Well, you can come with, I don't know if you go to the pool, but you can certainly get to the parks.
So you're saying, okay.
Yeah, and the trails, absolutely. All the way up. We'd love to be able to get access to you guys under Route 3, which is part of the discussion, having a tunnel so you can get there. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned earlier larger size lots. I just wonder what your definition of a larger size lot is.
We've got that in our design manual. Zach, do you want to tackle that one real quick? 20 to 30,000 square feet. Nice estate lots in the back. So. Yes, sir.
What are your plans for water and sewer projects?
We're working with RSA, and so far, Kenny, their response has been that they'll have adequate capacity to handle the project.
They will? Yes. You're going to be putting other plants along the rapid dam?
Yes.
Sewage, water?
Yeah, we're still in design. We're still in those discussions about future designing on that, but every discussion has been very positive about being able to request. Someone who hasn't answered the question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm very concerned about the water, the fire, our sheriff's department, our fire and rescue, and our schools. There is no way that if we build 4,000 homes and only half of them have 2 children, that's 4,000 children. These 3 schools and our high school absolutely will not cover that. They cannot do that. So I'm very concerned about that. But a concern I have is, so say you start this, it gets approved, and you start building things, and these grand businesses don't come here, and people don't come here and move in there, then what happens? What happens to your, community? It's a wonderful thing. Williamsburg, I've seen them in lots of places, and they're beautiful. This is the orange, and I'm not so sure that something on that scale is going to be something that will be successful. And if it is not, what happens? Are we left with empty buildings sitting on the side of Route 3?
Yes.
Like, how can you guarantee, once you start it, if our county says yes, then it's going to turn into what it is supposed to turn into? And how are you going to guarantee that we have enough water for those of us who are already here? And that the sheriff's department can handle it? And our fire rescue, who's busted under the seats already, and you're going to give them all these other things? And our schools, who are busting under the seats? How is that going to...
Right. So we've evaluated those impacts as part of our analysis, and we'll continue to do so. There is a tax for public safety, fire and rescue that's applied to residents. This project, I'm just going to answer your question. So a project of this nature takes a very long time to build out. I mean, I think I probably said that 10 times, but it really does. It doesn't take 5 years. It doesn't take 10 years. This is a long-term project. So what we're doing is giving it an opportunity to be successful, and I think it will be. You're not going to have empty buildings. What you're going to have is a synergy of probably a small footprint initially of commercial retail and some housing units. I think it's pretty synergy, and then it grows from there. Of course, markets have a lot to do with it. Market swings occur. So that's why we're saying this is a 40-year vision, not a 40-month vision. Okay? So give it some time, be patient. All we're doing is setting the table up as your vision says in your comprehensive plan. Take a few more questions. We got about 2 minutes. Yes, sir, you had asked a question before. I'll let you ask me. I don't know if I can answer your question.
You and your team
be willing to work with Lake of the Woods to convince VDOT that their vision for the Lake of the Woods entrance is not in our best interest?
We're certainly happy to talk to you and VDOT about that. I mean, that planning looks like it's going to be on our dime, not on VDOT's dime. So, we have every incentive to try to figure it out. Now, when I say that, we want people to get into our site as efficiently as possible. If you got to do a U-turn or an R-cut, it doesn't help us, I assure you, right? So we're on the same side, but we also, public safety is a primary focus for this, for these requirements. Folks can't shoot straight across Route 3 and go left. VDOT's very concerned about that. There is more traffic already on the corridor. Again, all of this has been in the planning stages for a very, very long time. We've come along now. Happy to work with you. Happy to talk to you guys anytime. Yes, sir. We're working. We do not have a location for that. You probably saw our planning that we're projecting where the utility line is going to be. Obviously, working with RSA and working with them on wastewater and also water. We don't have final plans on that yet. All we've had is preliminary discussions about capacity and how that plays out. Yes, sir.
Now let's say you want to verify or project site.
Well, we're the property, we be responsible. Second question for you. I'll let you have the second. I got another one. What's the second question? It'll be the last one. Yes, sir.
One of the things you said, I was in a previous meeting where we were talking about this site, and it was mentioned quite a bit that there was lead on this stuff, and part of the Rappahannock or the Rapidan River was cordoned off for fishing because they knew that there's contaminants in that river. So now you're saying that there's no contaminants on the land? So
we did not say that. I think someone made a comment here in the last meeting about that. We did not say that. And to our knowledge, there's no known hazardous, no one has come to the property owner, a state agency or a federal agency, that there's contaminants X, Y, and Z on your site. There's no known to us. That's why this zoning process would require us to do that. So
it's contaminated.
I mean, everybody has an opinion on it, but the reality is you don't know until you study it, and we're required to study it if it's approved. It's that simple. I don't know how else to explain it. Yes, sir. Yeah,
I'll let you end on a really easy one.
Give me an easy one, would you?
It's a show. Can you, in 1 minute, explain what an R-cut is? Is that just a turn?
It's a quasi-U-turn. I did a lesson in it. VDOT has come up with these sort of new, safer, they don't want people to do full U-turn, so it's sort of it's a quasi-U-turn, is what it is.
So coming out of Lake of the Woods, you go right,
I tell you, get ready to break up. Come talk to this guy right here. We'll walk you through it. Hey guys, thank you very much. Have a great evening. I really appreciate it.